Hello, Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. I'm your host, Julian, and today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors game against the Dallas Mavericks. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the Toronto Raptors defense. And the last episode we talked about the Toronto Raptors shooting. This episode, we kind of have to delve into what the Toronto Raptors are doing on the defensive end. And the Toronto Raptors have been doing some things well and other things very poorly. So why don't we start on a good note and talk about what the Raptors are doing well. So as we all know, in the preseason, in the summer, and even last season, the Toronto Raptors defensive philosophy started clicking, and they had been doing a really good job of turning teams over and playing aggressive help defense, generating light ball turnovers, getting out in transition, all that good stuff. And that has still been happening this season, even though they've struggled on defense. This is not one area where they've struggled. So they are third in opponent turnovers per game. That is very good. They are getting a lot of runouts and scoring in transition, so that's really nice to see. They're also not doing bad at guarding the three-point line. They are fifth in opponent three-point makes at only 11 per game, and 12th in opponent three-point percentage at 34%. So that's pretty good too. But one of the reasons that other teams aren't making a lot of threes is because they're just scoring inside every possession. And the reason for that is because the Toronto Raptors have had a really difficult time guarding the point of attack and also guarding the rim. And I said a few days ago when they defeated the Hawks that the Raptors have good interior defense. And on paper, that may be the case. But unfortunately, the Toronto Raptors starting center, Jakob Poeltl, has been dealing with back issues. And he missed the majority of the preseason with that back injury. And it looks as though it is still bothering him pretty severely in the regular season. He's not looked right. He's looked a step slow on defense. He is, not guarding the rim very well. He doesn't seem like he has a lot of lift. He just seems like kind of like a ghost on defense. Like his contests, like his hand goes up and it almost seems like it's not doing anything. Like they're just able to score right through him. That is not what you want to see. Another thing is that I feel like the Toronto Raptors defensive system has him guarding outside of the paint more than you would hope that he has to do. They have him playing at the level of the screen. They have him switching out onto players because they do play aggressively and switches happen in those circumstances. Sometimes he's away from the basket. They have him coming up to help on drives, and sometimes that means he's out of position. He can't guard the basket. But more than that, he just doesn't look right. And I really think that he is dealing with an injury right now because we saw what he's capable of last season when he is looking right. He does a good job of contesting shots around the basket. He's a good positional defender. He plays big. He grabs boards, and he doesn't foul quite as much as he has this season so far. So in the first game, even when he played well, he fouled out of the game. In the past two games, he's been, sitting at 5 fouls in like 20 minutes. And some of that is the refs. I think that last game was horrible from a reffing standpoint. There were a lot of ticky-tack fouls on all of the Raptors, and it was kind of an, biased whistle, in my opinion. But a lot of that is the fact that he is a step slow, I think, and they're putting him in positions where he's not as comfortable. So yeah, he has not looked good this season at all. The other issue is at the point of attack, and specifically I'm talking about Immanuel Quickley. So Immanuel Quickley, if you've been paying attention to the games or even looking at the box scores, it's not been pretty. He has not been shooting the ball well at all, and it's more than that, honestly. I think that the offensive issues have been the biggest area where people are complaining, specifically his lack of three-point shooting, but just as bad, maybe even worse, has been the defense. So in 2 straight contests, so against the Bucks and against the Mavericks, he's made 2 average, maybe even below average guards look like star guards. So Cole Anthony, I like that signing for the Mavericks. Thought he was a good bench piece for them. Immanuel Quickley could not guard him. Last game in the second half, he went off against Immanuel Quickley. And then last night, D'Angelo Russell, who was once upon a time an all-star, but has, really not been that type of player the past couple of years. He also had a really, really good second half where he was getting into the paint. He was getting past Immanuel Quickley, turning the corner on him. Immanuel Quickley was getting caught on screens, could not stay connected, and then D'Angelo Russell would get into the paint and make a play or hit a shot. Yeah, Immanuel Quickley's defense has been poor to start the season. And when you combine those two things together, so if you have bad point of attack defense, players are going to get into the paint. And then if you have bad rim protection, they're going to be able to score in the paint. It's really been a bad scene for the Toronto Raptors in the half court on defense. So if you allow players to get a step on you, if there is an advantage created, the rest of the defense has to kind of scramble. And you would hope that your starting center would be able to clean up messes like they usually do, but with the way Poeltl looks right now, that's not happening. Those two things combining together have kind of deep sixed the Toronto Raptors on the defensive end. The Raptors have really been getting smoked, especially at the rim. The Raptors are currently 28th in the league in opponent 2-point percentage at pretty unbelievable 61%. That's just unacceptable. When a team is able to get into the paint and shoot that type of percentage, you are going to struggle to win basketball games. That is not going to allow you to win very many games. Coupled with that, they are also fouling a lot. I mean, Jakob Poeltl has either fouled out or been close to fouling out every single game. They have been picking up tons of fouls, some of it due to the aggression, some of it, as I said, ticky-tack fouls. I'm not enjoying what I'm watching on the defensive end. I think Immanuel Quickley needs to be a whole lot better. I think Jakob Poeltl has to get right, because I think that both of those players can be good defenders, solid defenders in terms of Immanuel Quickley, and good defenders when I'm talking about Jakob Poeltl. So one of the things that Immanuel Quickley does pretty well is stay connected and be a good screen navigator. I think he has done that well in the past. He's not a very disruptive player. He doesn't get his hand on loose balls or create steals very often. But what he can do is make sure that other guards don't get a ton of daylight and he doesn't get rubbed off on screens too much. But that has been happening over and over again this season. And I really need to see him sharpen up there. And in terms of Jakob Poeltl, I mean, maybe they have to change the defensive scheme so that he's not guarding out of the paint as often, especially when he looks like he has limited mobility. I don't know if that's something that you can change on the fly. Like, obviously they have a defensive scheme and they want to stick with it. But if your starting center, who is the most important defensive player on your team, can't execute that defensive system competently, something's got to give. And right now the Toronto Raptors are losing games because they can't play defense in the half court. And as I said, the strategy of trying to turn teams over and be aggressive, it's working to a degree. Like, they are accomplishing what they're trying to do. Third in the league in opponent turnovers is good. That's really good. But they really need to execute the fundamentals of basketball, which is guarding the pick and roll, limiting penetration, and then getting good contests at the basket when they are able to get inside. And none of that has been happening. So kind of unfortunate. That's really what I've been seeing on the defensive end. It's not too complicated, but it is concerning. Now let's get to the player evaluations. And we will start off with Scottie Barnes because he was the best player for the Toronto Raptors by a mile last night. I thought he was very good. He had 33 points on 24 shots. He was 3 of 5 from 3. He was 4 of 5 from the free throw line. He finished with 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and yes, 5 turnovers. But I thought it was a very strong game from him. The 3-point shot is very encouraging. I'm very happy that that shot is coming around for him. If I'm going to be consistent, I have been saying that they are going to regress to the mean, both Immanuel Quickley in terms of his poor 3-point shooting. I think that's going to improve. Scottie Barnes is shooting right now over 50% from 3. He was 2 of 4 in his last game. He was 3 of 5 in this game. So he's not going to shoot over 50% from 3 this season. It's going to fall down. But the question is, how far? I think if he's taking smart shots and shots that, are wide open, and he is feeling confident and he realizes when he has his shot going and when he doesn't, when he can be aggressive with the shot and when, he needs to ease up on it, he could have a pretty good 3-point shooting season. And right now the start is encouraging, but again, I'm not foreseeing him continuing this torrid pace with 3-point shooting, but I am happy to see it. In terms of what what he's doing on the defensive end and on the boards and with the ball in his hands. I'm very pleased. 11 rebounds is great. I thought his pull-up jump shot when he would get into the paint, shoot that mid-range shot, that was a great shot for him last season. It seems like it's going to be a good shot for him this season. He had a really varied game in terms of his offense. He did a little bit of everything. I think he should have shot more free throws. Like, he got inside a ton. He shot 24 shots, a lot of them inside, and he only shot 5 free throws. I thought the reffing was poor last night. I think it was a little biased in favor of the Mavericks. And one of the reasons is because the whistle was not being blown equally for both sides. And you should reward the best players on each team, especially if they're trying to go inside, especially if there are fouls. I just feel like that wasn't the case. Even with that said, Scottie is just having a great season so far. I really like to see that. I think that bodes well for the Toronto Raptors, even though they are struggling right now. When your best player is looking good and looking like a star, I think that you have the potential to go pretty far. And hopefully he can keep it up. So really happy to see that. Second here, no surprise again, Brandon Ingram also had a very good offensive game. He had 22 points on 16 shots. He was 2 of 3 from 3. He had 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 turnovers. He had a shot going. There were many possessions where he would just come off a screen and pull up and nail the jump shot. His 3-point shot was looking good. He is a bucket. He is a very smooth player. He can make plays for other players, and his rebounding and his help defense have been good. He's very long on the interior, and he can, on broken plays or when other teams get into the paint, he makes himself big and he stretches those arms out and he grabs steals, deflections, that sort of thing. That is one element of his game that I've been very happy with. Unfortunately, his perimeter defense isn't that great. Players can get past him. He is guarding usually players who aren't as skilled on the offensive end, sometimes 3-and-D players. But, his foot speed is that of maybe a forward. And if you put him onto players with faster foot speed, he can struggle to stay in front of those players. So it's a bit of a mixed bag on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, he is as advertised. He is a bucket and he can get you shots and he can create his own offense. And he can use screens, and he can do things in the half court. And I've been pleased with how he's been playing this season. Next up, RJ Barrett. I think he had a really good game, especially in the first half. Maybe he didn't have a really good game in the second half. He was kind of invisible, but I think part of that was because Emmanuel Quickley was kind of dominating the ball. But yeah, in the first half, he had a good game. 16 points on 13 shots, so he remains efficient. He was 1 of 3 from 3-point range. And he started off really hot, and now he's kind of back in the 33% range. I think he was 1 of 3 in his last game as well, but that's still acceptable. Hitting a 3 every game, I'll take that. He was 1 of 2 from the free throw stripe, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, only 1 turnover. I like RJ Barrett. I think that he is a smart offensive player. I like how he can get to the basket and carve out space with his body. The Dallas Mavericks are very big. They've got some good rim protectors, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg. They've got some big bodies that are in the paint, can make it tough to score in there, but he was able to carve out space and score on the inside, especially in the first half. And he's a pretty good playmaker once he gets an advantage. If he attacks a closeout or another player passes him the ball on a cut or that sort of thing, he's a good finisher. I think he was a lot better than last season when he kind of struggled to finish. This season, he's back to where he was in his first season with Toronto, which is finishing plays around the basket with his good touch. So I'm encouraged by that. The defense, again, is a bit of a mixed bag. He is a good one-on-one defender, and he can lose track of where he's supposed to be on the court. Once you get a little deeper into the clock and there's some rotations that happen, he can be out of position. So that still happens, but it's not deadly. And he is winning his minutes, in my opinion. He had the highest plus-minus on the team. Single game plus-minus doesn't matter that much, but, he was a +10 on the night, and I thought he did a good job. He definitely was not the reason the Toronto Raptors lost the game. Now we're going to get to the players who were the reason the Toronto Raptors lost the game, because the other 2 starters were very bad, and if I had to pick a player who maybe did the least damage, so was less bad. I'll go with Jakob Poeltl, even though he was quite poor. He only had 4 points in 20 minutes. He was 2 of 3 from the field, 0 of 2 from the free throw line. That remains a concern. I'm not happy with that. 8 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, so he was creating extra possessions for the Raptors. He had 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, 5 fouls. That's part of the reason he didn't play a lot. And his defense is just, it's not good enough right now. Teams are scoring around him. He's a step slow. He's out of position, and he's not looking good. Not having a block, he usually is good for around a block a game, but he doesn't have the lift that he usually does. And I think that he's still injured. I think he's playing injured. And I think also the face mask, I mean, maybe that's what's happening with his free throw attempts, is that his face mask is screwing with him. He doesn't attempt many of his patented push shot. That used to be money for him, especially last season. He was taking like 3 or 4 of those a game. He's just not taking them now. I think part of that is the face mask. So yeah, I hope he can get back to where he was last season. And last on the list, last and least, Immanuel Quickley. He has been wretched for the Raptors so far this season. I'm still holding out hope because a big part of this, a huge part of this, bigger than I think a lot of people are thinking. Right now, there's a lot of negative energy on social media regarding Immanuel Quickley. And a lot of people are questioning his ability to be a point guard. And my opinion is that right now, the biggest thing for him on the offensive end, the biggest downside for him, is that he cannot hit his 3-point shots, either pull up or spot up. He is not hitting either of those shots. He only shot 1 for 7 from 3 last night. He had 14 points on 16 shots. That's not good. 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover. Yeah, not a good night from him. And then the defense was also poor. D'Angelo Russell had a really bad first half, so you got to credit him a little bit. But then in the second half, he helped propel the Mavericks to victory. And part of that was because he was getting into the paint over and over again against Immanuel Quickley. The contests were not good enough. He wasn't staying attached. It was a bad defensive evening for Immanuel Quickley and for Jakob Poeltl. So those two players combined they were big culprits. Immanuel Quickley's defense has been poor, and we'll get to another player who, off of the bench, has been playing some not very good defense. So we'll end there with the starting lineup. Now we'll go to the bench, and we'll talk about the player who impressed me the most, and that is Sandro Mamukelashvili. Sandro had a really good first half. He had 16 points in the game, 6 of 8 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3. So his 3 is not like gone, like it's not like exited the building, kind of like with Immanuel Quickley, but he still has to pick it up a little bit there. He was 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 3 assists. I am really enjoying Sandro's ability to, get to the basket and finish. He is very fast. His foot speed, especially for a big, when he is being guarded by a big, he blows past bigs all of the time. His ability to get them on the back foot and then get the ball and finish with either a dunk or a layup has been awesome. His cuts are very strong, and he gets to the rim and finishes with athleticism and speed. And then when he gets cut off, or they rotate and maybe add some extra help defenders, he can find open players on the perimeter. He is a baller. He's got a little bit of sauce. Like, he's not just a role player. He looks like he can be, a featured member of the offense because of how he looks getting to the rim. I really like that. Last night, he's usually a pretty good rebounder, but last night he only had 1 rebound. With that said, he did have a really good box out. I remember on one of those plays when he was able to get down the floor really quickly. It all started with him pushing Anthony Davis under the basket so that he was out of the play, and then he was able to run down the floor and finish in transition. He had a really good first half. Not so much in the second half, but if Jakob Poeltl is looking, out of sorts, they might have to call him more often and have him be more of a featured player along with the starters. They did run that lineup. It looked pretty good. Starters plus Mamu. Defensively, he's not really a center, and the reason it kind of works is because Scotty is kind of a center, and when Colin Murray-Boyles, doesn't have a bad game like he had last night, he can also help out there. So I don't mind him being the backup 5. Now let's go to the second best player, Jamal Shed. I thought he had a good game. He had 6 points on 2 of 3 shooting. He was 1 of 2 from 3. If he can hit shots from three-point land, I think he will be a long-time NBA player. That's really the weakness in his game, is his inability to shoot threes, but he was able to make one last night. He's 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 0 rebounds, 8 assists. He is kind of a wizard with the ball. He makes a lot of really high-level passes, and he hits players on the hands and creates scoring opportunities for his teammates. He had a bunch of really, really good passes last night, and then his defense is good. So, if Quickley continues to struggle, maybe you got to play more Jamal Shed. He struggled in the other 2 games, but this night he was actually quite good. So got to give him props. Next up, let's talk Grady Dick, because he had a mixed offensive evening. He finished with 10 points and 2 of 6 shooting. He was 2 of 4 from 3, 4 of 5 from the line. He had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 0 turnovers. So on the offensive end, he was okay. I think that the Raptors should be looking for him more when he's on the court. He should be shooting more 3-point shots. I know it's a little bit difficult because he isn't as good when you run him off of a screen. If there's any movement before the shot, his shooting percentages plummet pretty drastically, but I would like them to try and find him a bit more. They were playing him and Jamison Battle at the same time, and both of those guys are defensive liabilities. So if you're playing both of them at the same time, you would think that those players would be shooting the ball a little bit more, but when they were on the floor in non-garbage time, those guys barely shot the ball when they were on the floor together. It just seemed like they were an afterthought in the offense. And on the defensive end, you were giving up a ton when those two are playing at the same time. You're going to be a sieve. Players are going to target them. They're going to get into the paint. It's going to exacerbate your issues guarding the basket. So I don't want to see those two players playing at the same time. And if you are going to play them at the same time, you got to get them some shots. It just doesn't make sense to play them otherwise. And his defense is still an issue. He has poor lateral foot speed. And he I think, can be a featured member off of the bench, but it has to be in lineups that make sense, and you have to be able to hide him a little bit better than they have been doing. So, yeah, mixed performance from him. Defense, still shaky. Colin Murray-Boyles had a rough first outing. He's obviously been dealing with an elbow injury. He had 0 points on 4 shots and 2 rebounds, 1 turnover. He played 13 minutes too, so it's not like he didn't get a chance. Want to see more from the Rook. Obviously, I'm not making any judgments yet, but pretty, welcome to the big leagues moment from him. Hope he can bounce back tonight and have a better game. There were a couple of other players who played. I don't want to get too far into it because I wasn't very impressed. This whole game was, really good first half. Maybe not really good, but I saw a lot of things that I liked in the first half. I saw a lot of aggressiveness. I thought that they were keeping pace. They were turning the Mavericks over. I thought there was a lot to hang your hat on in the first half. In the third quarter, it fell apart for the reasons I mentioned. Their defense was very poor, and they stalled out offensively. They really just need to get more contribution from the players who haven't been bringing it, and they need a little bit more help off of the bench as well. The Mavericks were without a strong point guard. D'Angelo Russell looked like a strong point guard in the second half last night, even though he sucked in the first half. I think he was like 1 of 9 at one point. He finished the game 8 of 18. So that's not even that bad. That just goes to show that he really did have a very good second half. And Emmanuel Quickley was a big culprit there. And you can't lose to guys like D'Angelo Russell and Cole Anthony in the year 2025. Those guys are not star players. You would want to see your starting point guard help control those players. You'd like to see your starting center maybe put up more resistance at the basket. So yeah, poor game. I mean, Cooper Flagg popped off, of course. He struggled in his first 2 games, and then against the Raptors, he really exploded and had a really, really tough game. 22 points in 28 minutes, 8 of 14 from the field, had a bunch of really nice dimes. He posterized Sandro. And then Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. He has always been good against the Raptors. 25 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, really just packed up the stat sheet. Even guys like PJ Washington had a really good game. So yeah, it was a tough night, and the Toronto Raptors are not going to get much rest because they are playing the San Antonio Spurs tonight at 8 o'clock, and Victor Wembanyama is a special player. I think most people would agree that at this point, he will be in the conversation for the greatest player of all time. And that sounds like an exaggeration. I mean, especially if you're not watching the games, because, that is a huge thing to say. he is doing things that I've never seen from a center, from really anybody. And he looks like a complete freakazoid while he's doing it. Like, he is doing breathtaking thing after breathtaking thing. And the Spurs are 3-0 on the season because of how good he's been. They've also got Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox is out right now. He is injured, but Stephon Castle looks good. They've still got Devin Vassell. They've got a good team, and they've got good role players, and it will be tough for the Toronto Raptors to win tonight. They're on the second night of a back-to-back, and Wemby is just unbelievable. So, going to be tough, but hopefully the Raptors are able to surprise me, and I hope at least that they can show some fight, and maybe the players who have not been playing very well can bounce back, because it's a long season, 82 games. Players who are playing poorly right now, it doesn't mean that they're going to play poorly the entire season. I have high hopes for both Emmanuel Quickley and Jakob Poeltl, and I don't think that what we're seeing right now is necessarily what we're going to see from them the entire season. So, yeah, that was the game, and that is the episode. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps the channel grow. Please hit the bell icon because, you want to be able to know when new episodes go live. And if you haven't already, join the Discord. We have a really cool community there with a lot of people talking Raptors basketball, even talking about the Blue Jays right now. The Blue Jays are, in the World Series. At least one Toronto team is playing well, so really happy about that. And you can follow Raptors Report on all your favorite social media channels, TikTok, Instagram, obviously YouTube, Twitter, all of that sort of stuff. Please find and follow us there. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.